Reset the timeline.
We're live. Yeah,
Redo.
all right, all good. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the preamble, everyone watching at home. Hello and welcome everyone to CocoaHeads for May of 2026. Thanks for coming along. So to start with, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I'll just do a few minutes of housekeeping and then we'll get stuck into the talks. So hello, I'm Zach, and along with Christian, we run CocoaHeads. Feel free to come and chat with us about any questions or concerns throughout the night. But thank you for coming. We have a code of conduct, just a reminder that it applies to our meetups as well as online events like the online parts like the Slack group. You can read it in full on our website, but the idea is to be respectful, be inclusive, and be aware of fellow attendees. If there's any issues or concerns related to this, again, please come and speak to Christian or myself. A massive thank you to our sponsors, Biloo and Procreate. Without them, we couldn't run the events like we do. So of course, Biloo provide the space and Procreate help with our ongoing costs. So we're immensely appreciative to both of them. And as a reminder, Procreate have a Sydney office that is now open, and they're also still hiring. So there's a career page linked to there, procreate.com/careers. If you're looking for work, that could be worth checking out. I checked earlier this week, they've got roles open for an engineering manager, senior software engineer, and a product designer in their Sydney office still. So definitely recommend checking that out if you're looking. And we have a Slack community that's worth knowing about. If you're interested in joining, you can scan that QR code, but it spans not just Sydney, it's Melbourne and the Brisbane groups, CocoaHeads groups as well, and some people from New Zealand as well. So it's a good place to hang out with an iOS community during the month. So check that out if you're interested. Reminder that we are live on YouTube. The camera's there. It's mostly only pointed at the speaker. It is also our 6-year anniversary on YouTube, which YouTube told us today. So I wonder what was happening 6 years ago that forced us to do that, but still a pretty cool milestone, 6 years of streaming these events. So not too shabby. Anyone attending for the first time, just a quick show of hands. Welcome, hope you enjoy, and yeah, thank you for coming. Now, if you like what you see here tonight, I definitely would suggest checking out Melbourne CocoaHeads. They run on the second Thursday of the month, and they have a live stream as well. So well worth a watch, as is the Brisbane CocoaHeads. They normally clash with us at the moment, we overlap, but they also have started streaming to YouTube, so you can catch them the next morning or whenever you're free to watch it. And there's also some other events that I want to call out. So we have an iOS event coming to Sydney in July, which is really cool. So DevWorld is going on tour. If you're familiar with DevWorld, it's the iOS conference that normally takes place in Melbourne. It's been yearly for as long as I can remember. But this one is a little bit different. DevWorld, the people behind DevWorld, the AUC, and Procreate are coming together to run a WWDC focused event or WWDC themed event. And my understanding of it is the idea is to bring a little bit of WWDC and the talks and the content and stuff to Sydney, which should be really cool. So some details, it's at the Maritime Museum. It's happening in early July, 2nd and 3rd. And it's worth noting, it is separate to the main DevWorld event, which is also happening later in the year. But for this Sydney event, some of the speakers you might be familiar with if you've attended other DevWorld events in the past. You probably have seen a few of these faces before, and tickets are currently on sale. So
Early bird.
yeah, early bird tickets are on even cheaper than they will be if you delay. So don't delay, buy your tickets. And then speaking of DevWorld, there's the regular DevWorld coming in Melbourne, coming later this year in Melbourne. So that's happening the end of August, the 27th and 28th. Tickets aren't on sale for this one yet, but the call for speakers is currently open. So if you're interested in submitting a talk, now's the time to do that. And their speaker support, like financially to get you there, is generally pretty good. So if you kind of want to go to a conference and give a talk at the same time, definitely suggest submitting a talk to that. that my understanding of this dev world is that it's more the typical like broader based conference, whereas the Sydney one is really going to be focused on the WWDC announcements. What will those be? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Okay, is anyone hiring or looking for work and wants to give a quick plug for either themselves or their company? Nope. Okay, cool. We'll move on from that. If you are hiring or looking for work later in the month, there is the jobs channel on Slack. So keep that in mind. Looking ahead, so our next event will be WWDC focused. It's happening on the 18th of June, which is the week after WWDC. Of course, I'll post full details on Meetup once we know a little bit more about the agenda. And then we are looking for speakers from July onwards, because we'll get back to our regular kind of Meetup type events after that. And it is also worth noting that we are moving next month, not very far. We're just going up 9 levels. We're going to level 13. So just keep that in mind when you arrive next month. We'll sort out the details on how everyone gets in next month once we kind of know what the access will be like, but presumably one of us will be there in the lobby to meet you. And
Probably look for a mobile number written on it.
yeah, we'll I don't have specifics yet. We'll figure it out. I'll put the details on the Meetup page once I know them. But yeah, like I said, I'm not sure yet. And yeah, I do go on about submitting a talk, but I usually don't tell you how to submit a talk. So if you're interested in speaking, we have a web form there that you can use. It's the Sydney CocoaHeads website /submit a talk. There's a QR code you can scan, or alternatively, just come and chat to Christian or myself, or send us a message throughout the month, and we can make it happen if you're interested in talking. Okay, that's enough rambling from me. So the schedule for tonight, we have Simon talking about agentic coding, and then we'll take a short break and we'll get into Amy's talk. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Simon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Starting.
What's up?
Thanks. And that's on, so that should be good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Zach, for having me here. This is the first time I'm going to do a public talking, so bear with me. All right. So today, the topic I'm going to talk about a very specific technique. Is when you are doing agentic coding on the iOS code base. So what's the benefit for doing with native bash XcodeBuild or using the MCP for the XcodeBuildMCP. So I assume everyone who is building or will build an iOS project will have this question. So I would rather to share my experience. Also, before the chat, I talked with a few different people. They are very interested in the topics for generic agentic coding, how AI are used in day-to-day work. So if you have questions around that, I'm happy to chat more with the questions Q&A session. So first, who am I? So my name is Simon. I have been living in Sydney since 2010. So I have been working of native iOS and macOS development for more than 1 decade. So currently I'm working as a software engineer in Safety Culture. So Safety Culture is headquartered in Sydney. So it's like a workplace safety software as a service company, and we are and the sponsor of Australia Open. So on the right side, that's what the app looks like. I just do this quickly. So before I start, I would have a brief understanding for how everyone's at. So I just divided into 4 groups to represent how AI blended into your daily flow. So level 1, like you are just curious, and level 2 is already in the daily workflow, like 30% of your code is generated by AI, and the level 3 is like more than half of the majority of the code is written by AI, and level 4 is you don't write code manually at all. So just raise your hand. So group 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, group 2. Thank you. Group 3. Group 4. All right, nice. Okay, so the majority are at between level 1 and level 2. So I would assume it's like just curious and are about to start to use AI more in the iOS coding. That's good. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because it might be easy just to start entering at this stage. And also these techniques are fast evolving. So if you learn slowly, maybe it's a better thing. Yeah, so I have lots of pages, so I need to hurry up. Let's go to them. Before that, I would start with a joke. So, do you guys know that once upon a time the Claude Code would always like to say, "You are absolutely right," or nowadays they say, "Good catch." You know why they always say that? This.
And playing with a rubber duck.
Okay, so some people say they are showing a token of appreciation. Of course, builder with your money. Right, that's a joke, but when we are talking about the strategy, how you are going to build your project, especially in cooperation with a large code base, so the token efficiency is one of the problem we are going to think about. It's not the sole point, but it will occupy a large way of thinking. So I will go through that later. So let's start. So the purpose of this talk is to give an idea for what the mindset you should have when you are decided to build your Xcode with the AI, like ask the agent to build it. But so first, people might have question, why I want the agent to build it at all? So I can like open Xcode and press Command B. The build might be slow, and I can grab a coffee, go back later, check the result, right? That's the traditional workflow in 2024. But nowadays, why we want the agent builder? So it's not only but because the background time you can do something else, checking the Slack message. It's because the agent can actively read the output and act on the output, whether succeed or error itself, and then act on your behavior. For example, you can chain a lot of commands in one go so that the agent can perform. For example, some typical things you can do, you bump a dependency, and you can in one prompt ask the AI to do these things in one run, so that you can expect to have a result and you can work on something else. Or you can ask the AI to do one shot to resolve a ticket, starting from create the ticket and check out the code, build, test, push, and write a draft of the PR. So like a real prompt in the working environment could be like on the right side says, let's resolve this ticket, create a feature branch, and do this, check out, modify, and add some tests for that. So in this workflow, you need AI to build it for you. You don't want to interrupt in the middle and wait you to look at the result. Let's go to the next stage. So that's, you can see in this graph on the right, so let's say the next stage when we have goal or we have spec ready, then we set a goal or we write a spec to working on that. And the agent, and around the agent, the harness of the agent, like a Cloud Code or Codex, they will perform this for you. They understand the spec or the goal which you are going to do, and they build, verify. If it's succeeded, it commits the code. If it's not, then it modify the code and build again. And all these can happening without a human involving. So that's the real efficiency you gain. So if it will stop and ask you every time, then basically it's still, you just speed up the code writing. You didn't automate the process. So only you achieve that the agent can work in a long time, so that you really are in the agentic coding by itself. But in this phase, how to build it is quite an essential part of the task. That's why I try to resolve the issue of which way you are going to build it. That said, there's a note that Xcode is still good for breakpoints, like profiling, these kind of tasks you may still want to in Xcode. Apart of that, you can completely working without Xcode nowadays. I'm doing it very slow, but feel free to just pause and raise your hand if you have questions. So now I briefly introduce what are you going to do for the setup. So the first thing, the path A is you use the XcodeBuild, the command line provided by Xcode. So basically it's a bash command, so you don't need any setup. You come that free. If you have Xcode already installed, it's free. And the agent knows that, so whatever you are using Cloud Code or you are using Codex, you just say build the project for me, it will build that for you. There's one thing you want to aware is there's a permission setting. So basically, if you are very radical in using AI, you approve anything. If you are more conservative, you might need to ask permission, but you don't want it to ask you every time you use XcodeBuild, it will ask permission. So basically there's some settings you can set that always allow the bash and the Xcode build with that one. So you put that in the settings, it will automatically approve. So that's the left side. So the right side is using the XcodeBuildMCP. So I hope you already understand what is MCP. If someone doesn't know how to set up an MCP, please raise a hand. Okay, so yeah, basically MCP, you can consider a piece of code, but it's a server provided by other providers. So it can be running locally or free from the server. And once that is set up, it will run that for you. You can think it's a tool. So once you set up, currently you have to use npx to set that MCP. Sorry, there's no better way. So you set it once, and you need to configure using some command, and so it will bring you a few additional tools. Like it have the most important, it has a simulator and the UI automation. So I will just focus on these tools. So the first tool let you run the app in simulator. And the second tool will let you to do some automation, like click, like tap, scroll, and take a screenshot. I will go to that later. But for now, you just understand you install that MCP. And once that MCP is installed, you can use the /MCP inside the Cloud Code. By the way, I'm using Cloud Code as the main provider for this talk, but actually it is same if you like to use Codex, OpenAI Codex is as well as, so there's no advocation for either of these, so feel free to use whatever you want. So in Cloud Code, you use /MCP to check the MCPs you already installed and their status, so you may re-authenticate or you want to reconnect them. Sometimes you need to do that manually. Okay, so assume you set this ready, and then here is showing the real world promote you use. So when you use, you just say clean and build to the whatever AI large language model you are using. And if you already installed MCP, you didn't need to say use that. You just say build that. It will build that for you. So this is the latest addition from the Xcode. Start from Xcode 26.3. Apple also provide a native MCP server. So back to this one. This MCP server is not provided by Apple. It's by some third-party open source, but very good guys wrote these, and based on the open source community pretty solid. So the Apple ones would be a good addition. But at the current stage, I found that it lacks of some basic features such as UI automation is not there. And so it's worth checking from time to time the 26.45 to see if it's ready for to be used heavily. But nowadays, I feel it's worth checking, but it's not ready yet. So just keep an eye. But my main focus on this talk won't talk about this thing, but we can try that later. So to understand the build, I'd like to dig deeper into what's actually happening when you ask the agent to build. So the pass A is when you are using the AI to bash build the Xcode. So you just say, I didn't have MCP installed, I just say build it. So it works like this. So bash is a tool call. So it's a tool that the agent call to execute, and then it will call the command line called xcodebuild or xrun. And when that run, it returns a very large raw result. So it depends on what kind of project you are working on. If you are working on a personal project, it doesn't matter. But like me, working for a large company, so the code size like 8,000 files. So that build result is very long. To do a clean build, the raw text, it has 26 MB standard output, like 115K lines of text message to this. But you may ask, how does the large language model process these lines? The answer is it's got truncated. It only read the last 30,000 characters. So not all of them go to the contents window. No contents window is that big. So I will go to that later, but you remember only the last few lines got into the contents window. And the agent then read these lines to decide whether the build succeed or not and decide what to do next. So that's the way if you don't have the MCP. So on the right side, what you already have the MCP installed, then there's a slightly different way. So when the agent decided to build, it calls the MCP tools because the agent knows you have this tool ready. It calls it user JSON. And then it goes to a black box for the XcodeBuildMCP server. So this thing try to build with the knowledge of what you are going to build. And it's doing the build. So to the main engine, it's like a black box. The main engine doesn't know what's happening. So the MCP server later, when the build finish, is read everything, the report, and decide to generate a result, a structured JSON result to indicate whether this build succeed or not succeed. If error, what's the error? If it's warning, how many warnings? And return a structured JSON back to the agent. So it's basically, it's a structured response. It's already processed by the MCP server. So main agent only get the result. It's like delegated to the server. So it creates a difference. And it's not always says the right side is better than the left side. I will go through that later. They are for different scenarios. So let's go for some real task. So this is to say, how do we handle this raw task? Like you have 115K lines of code. So while doing that, so depending on what agent you are using, you can ask they to process them differently. This is very detailed. If you don't have to understand all of them, I just go through. So you can using the grep. That means when you process the result, you just interested in the error. So the error message only the error message knows by the agent. Or you can have some other tools installed. For example, this one XcodeBuildMCP. This is a special repo. It's to like truncate your build output and get lots of irrelevant information, get rid of, and only useful information that. Or you can ask XcodeBuild to not only give the result, but when it's building, it's written, it's streaming to a log file so that the main agent can read the log file at the same time. This will be useful. Also, there's a way to do a build in the background. I will show it in next slides. Or you can launch a back sub-agent to do the build. So these are all the different techniques to handle this very large returns for the contents window issue. Yeah. So after we understand this, then we can look into that whether we are doing it in foreground and background. So the path A, if you just ask Xcode to build it, previously it's on the main agent, it blocks everything, you cannot do this thing. But starting from this year, so there's a new parameter in the Claude code. So when you do this, Claude code will very smart, it do the Xcode build running in the background. It's running in the background. So on the foreground, your chat window is still open, and I can ask AI continue to read the code, plan, draft some comments, or call other tools. They can all do it. And in the TUI, you can see that says the subtask is running, and it will return the result. But compared to the MCP, MCP is designed, by design, it's a black box. So if it's here, then the main agent is launch this MCP, so it's blocked. If you ask it to do other tasks, it only returns result when it finishes. So it might spend 15 minutes to build, but actually only 7 minutes, there is already an error. So that's meaningless for continue build, but sometimes Xcode won't stop it continue building. So there's lots of way you can ask it to build and output in a file. And then in the main agent, you can ask it to monitor the build. And whenever you detect an error, you stop build and report the error right away. So in this case, it grabs error and it stop it and it continue to do the stuff. So, but that is need you need to write some instruction, or you need to write your custom skills. Says I want to, when I let you build it in this way, not only in background, but you write to a file and streaming the output for me in real time, so I know when it's about to stop. Also, for the MCP part, if you don't like it completely blocked, then you can configure a sub-agent to build that. A sub-agent it has the separate context window, so you can think it's a totally different thing. So it will build and it won't block. It won't block the main agent doing things. But it's not always good. It comes with price. The price is the sub-agent will have a separate context window. That means the token consumption, the money you spend on the token will be doubled for running this separately. So if you are on enterprise plan and the every token matters, that will be a problem. If you are on hourly rates, you may hit the rates earlier. So that's always a trade-off. There's no silver bullet says this one is always better. So the good point is, in these ways, which way you feel better depends on your project, the size of your project, and your work style. You want to work in parallel, or you want to finish one task, then go to task. The good thing is you can always ask the agent, to memorize how you work and write a skill for you or write a memory for you. So next time you do it, they will follow what you ask them to do. So, so let's compare some. So if you code builder, 26 MB won't go into the context window directly. So the last 30 characters will go to that. And if you compress that, the real token size around 26 to 35 KB of the context window. By the way, the Claude code, so the Ops 4.7 optimized at like a 400 KB context window. So that's like 9% of context window. Not very big, but it's also not very small. So compare if you're using the MCP, the MCP does that for you. generate a summary. It's very small, less than 1 KB. So the context window, the token size for the build result itself is smaller. Well, that's one thing we want to consider, especially if you do 5 build in a row, then this might be 150 KB. So it's close to what you are going to compact. So, but it's not always the token matters. So in the left, if you use XcodeBuild to build it directly, there are lots of things mixed, like in a real project, the Xcode output will have lots of unrelated things like warning code, sign, process info. All these things will go to the context window for the main agent to run. So basically, it's not an ideal way. So many people prefer using an MCP to get it. So the conclusion here is that it's not always the real concern for the token cost, but also you need to consider this noise distract the agent. So agent's context window is filled of unrelated build logs, which might affect the performance of the agent after the build. So that's one part is about the build itself, and the next part is the beauty of using XcodeBuildMCP is that you can let it drive the app like a tester. So it has additional ability. It can see the app, like you see the screen of the simulator, and it can touch it, type it, and it can like scroll and type the keyboard, do some enter, and it can take a screen and take a video. So a real workflow you can build and run sim. So this is a tool provided by the MCP. It's called build run with simulator, and then it snapshot the UI, and then it tap and press some button on the bottom, and then it take a screenshot for you. So a real moment is just this morning. So this morning, I asked the cloud to do a medium-sized piece of UI work. And we have a team coffee time at 10 o'clock. So I plan to review it manually after the team coffee. But then my default is to use XcodeMCP, but I never teach the AI how to actually click inside the app. But to my surprise, the cloud code find it by itself. So it not only deliver the code after build, upload to the simulator, it actually tap, go to the place where I present the new UI, and take a screenshot, says, the job done, boss, this is a screenshot, and send a message to my iPad, because the iPad I can remote control the session, and then say when I'm talking with my teammates on the coffee. So the point is not it can complete the work by itself. The point is if there's something wrong, the code is not working, then the agent can work it automatically, try to fix that without my involvement. That's the true power of agentic coding. So so the loop is more important than the efficiency of time saving by itself. So that's the whole point. So I will skip this page because of the time. This is say when you are using MCP, there's some minor things you need to consider, but I will share the slides so you will know this later. So that's the chart to decide how the workflow. Once you start to decide to build, the first question, do I have tokens left today or my time limit reached? If I don't have token, no, go back to open Xcode, Command B like 2 years ago. Next, so does the agent need to see the output for the next action? If it's yes, then you'd better use MCP because you are about to have a UI automation workflow currently only supported by XcodeBuildMCP. We hope in the future the Xcode will natively support that, but not at the moment. The next question, Well, you do a chain of small steps of build and want to structure the output. If yes, then you want to use MCP. The reason is if you don't use that, then lots of 30 KB response enter the context window, and they will huge occupies the whole context window. So if you are not doing these things, then you can like a lightweight using XcodeBuild, just build and run that for me. It's completely okay. So you don't have to use that MCP, because MCP also has a slight cost when you launch that MCP, and it will be read at the head what this MCP can do, available tools inside which occupies a small amount of the context window. So if you don't do these two stuff, you do not have to use XcodeBuildMCP. So the native Xcode will serve you well, and one thing less and one thing less to maintain, so it's good. So basically that's a rule of thumb for now, but tools evolves quickly, so this decision tree might not working after 2 months time, and we will keep watching to see how it goes, and very exciting to see what's new. And this doesn't only apply to Claude code. So when I use Codex, OpenAI, Harness, it's similar. The exact command may be different, but the philosophy are almost the same. Yeah, so that says the different thing. So what we go from there. So basically, I introduced what is the native builder and the MCP builder, and what's the difference, and how you decide to choose. If you want to try, you just go back and install XcodeMCP tonight, and you can try it tomorrow, and you can feel it if it suits your need. Then the XcodeBuildMCP will have some config file. This is to discuss with whether you should share it with the team or you should get ignored. Probably not important if you are one-man team or you are an individual contributor, sole developer in the team, doesn't matter. But if you have lots of people, it's Atlassian, Slack, Figma, Firebase, and GitHub through command line. If someone want to discuss these, I'm happy to do that. The right one is a little bit different thing. So there is a framework called a mobile MCP, which works very well on iOS 17, but doesn't support 26 yet. It's based on Facebook's framework, like also provide UI automation. But it's not working for now, so I just don't introduce it. And there is also a proposal in Cloud Code MCP that you naturally have the way to launch the MCP in the background, so it reduces the size for the sub-agent. You have a different context window requirement. And also, all these new tools pop up every day, every week quickly. So if I do this talk next month, maybe 5 slides doesn't work, and I need to write a lot of new stuff. Yeah, so basically that's lots of stuff I have to go through quickly. So yeah, bear with me. So I have my email address and LinkedIn. So if you have any question, let's just get connected, and I'm happy to address any question. Yeah, you can ask now. And special thanks for the XcodeBuildMCP. And the review.js is a new trend to make these slides in HTML, not in MD files. And for my company, Safety Culture provide all the tokens needed for writing these slides. And thanks for the nice guys, CocoaHeads Sydney crew for hosting, and the Bailu company for hosting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. No questions? We've got to go.
Anyone have the questions? Yes?
Which one do you find yourself using more of the two?
Yeah, so initially when my project is still simple, so I would like natively use XcodeBuild, but I write some skill sets, do it in the background, and look at the streaming file in real time. If you see error, you just terminate it. But when the project goes big and when the UI automation is introduced, I 100% use the MCP one. Yeah, because I want the loop, I want to write the code, build, and if you see error, you fix and write again. If no error, take a screenshot and put that in the pull request. So that has to be used the MCP. Yes, please.
So are you just using, you don't use Xcode at all, basically, anymore? You're just fully...
Yes, almost haven't opened the Xcode for 2 or 3 months.
Thanks. Another round of applause. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was really good.
We're good to go. Cool. Hi, everyone. Good to be back up in Sydney for another month. As usual, 4 a.m. start for me on the indoor trainer for a bit of exercise, then straight to the airport and up here. So I have very little sleep today. It's going to be fun. Today's talk is a bit of a weird one. It's a fair bit of a story, and just to look at the different ways that things are sort of evolving and what the processes are we can be putting in place to make sure that our apps work the way we want. So, title of the talk is As the Princess Desires, because if you know me, you know I'm a passenger princess. I do not drive a car. I'm like, just deal with it for me, please, someone else. So that's that. Who am I? For those that haven't seen one of my talks before, hi, I'm Amy. Yes, I am looking for work, looking for contract work. I am an indie developer. I write blog posts. I travel the world. I have fun. So first website up there is sort of my personal everything website. One of the things I'm doing this year is I want to write a book. So first step towards that is putting up a website, which is healthkit.com. healthkit.guide, which is a collection of everything I know about HealthKit in one place. And then all of my indie apps. So healthkitty.app, I've talked about a few times. It's a chat interface for all of your health data. Ride Journal, I go cycling a lot, so having a way to journal that is always fun. And a new one, which I'm talking about today, is a build tool called mobilebuilds.app, which is pretty cool, pretty fun. And today's all about that, all about the story. Cool. Okay, what we'll cover. So the story will sort of cover what happened, why I've been building this, but also what I've been putting in place within the app's code in order to make sure that everything works the way I want. A big one is SwiftUI previews, unit tests, linting and formatting, UI tests, what goes into an agents.md file, Xcode limitations, debugging, and cognitive overhead. Whole range of topics, all of which are just going to be lots of fun. Cool. But first, a story. So one night I was working away on Ride Journal, my cycling app, getting close to submitting a PR, putting it up, having CI run again and again and again because all the changes, and we got to this. I now need to pay for Xcode Cloud, mainly because I ran out of the 25 free hours, which is actually a fairly hard thing to do on Xcode Cloud. The billing is super generous, and I managed to completely destroy 25 hours in 3 days. Oh, and I also need to pay for Claude as well. So it started off on the Pro. That sort of lasted about a week. And then I went, yeah, I kind of need to up my usage. So spending all this money just to write apps. People tend to do it. I like when people pay me. I don't like it when I have to pay other people and other services. Makes sense, really.
That's for a month.
Yes, that's the max 5 at what it currently is. They've recently changed their billing again and again and again. They now, when they show you your usage, they don't show you the number of tokens. It is now percentage of something. Yes, percentage of profit. Thanks, Neil. I like that approach. So how do I keep track of everything? How do I keep track of what's going on in Xcode Cloud? One option is use the website. We have all iOS, macOS developers on Apple's platforms, so we've probably all got a bit of experience with this website. And if you go to the Xcode Cloud section, you see this. And you're like, well, where's my pull requests? Where's my history of everything? I know Apple retains the data. They're just not showing it. So I built an app, which is Mobile Builds. And the whole purpose of this is to look at and understand my usage of Xcode Cloud and where all of that hours is disappearing towards. I don't mind paying Xcode Cloud money. The people building it, a great bunch of people, and what happened there? Don't know. Glitch in the matrix.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so yes, I built an app, and it's kind of neat in that it allows me to look at it like this. So none of this clunky Xcode interface for all of your workflows. It's actually nice, it's vibrant, got a whole heap of color in there, it's got some graphs, and everything is just in this one place for me. Oh yeah, and even though I'm showing Mac OS there, iPad OS, iOS, everything OS, Vision OS eventually. So how did I build this app? I have a tendency to lean very heavily on Apple's platforms and frameworks. So for me, first sort of point of call is Xcode, like just all within that, even though, as you saw before, I have started paying more and more for Claude. My point of access for it is Xcode itself. I just like it. It's really nice. So this is one of the things that will just keep reoccurring, is how am I leveraging all of this tooling that Apple provides in order to get certainty that the app is doing what it should. First up, SwiftUI previews. These have been around for a long time, as long as SwiftUI itself, and a way of just quickly iterating on the UI and what is involved. Now, with SwiftUI, because it's all value types and it's typically rendering based on the data you input, changing that input data makes a lot of sense. So you can just generate more and more and more SwiftUI previews of all of your different state iterations and whatnot. And the good thing about Claude is Claude will be able to look at and understand your code. And okay, I'm using Claude here, but by Claude I mean an Agentic LLM that is tied into Xcode in order to spit out all of your previews. One of the really nice things that previews allows for is this thing called a preview trait. So the preview trait will allow you to apply modifiers based on pretty much not like the view modifiers and they act and behave the same way all other view modifiers do. But one of the advantages of a trait is you can use it to define how sort of your global presentation of your view is, rather than worrying about the view itself and adorning it. So for me, a couple of these ones would be stuff like your light and your dark mode, and then a couple of random accessibility sizes. So here it's like your light mode in extra small, large, and accessibility, and then your dark mode, extra small, large, and accessibility. One of the fun things that if you lean very heavily on previews, you'll come to understand is that Xcode slows down a lot. You will find that you get constant beach balls because when it is spinning up these previews, it is getting very close to spinning up a simulator in order to show and render the canvas. So hopefully that's something that Apple is aware of and will be improving in a couple of weeks when the rest of us get access to Xcode 27. I would love to see this improve as far as its performance, because say I've modified 10 files. Those 10 files each have, say, 20 previews in them. That's 200 previews. When I then go to create a pull request in Xcode, Xcode very happily will go, let's just render out these 200 previews right there and then, if you leave Canvas on. That's a very bad thing, unfortunately, because it will take a long time and it'll just beach ball until the process has finished. But they work really well as a visual aid for determining, does your code work in these different conditions, and does your code actually look the way it should? So definitely make use of SwiftUI previews. If you're using Claude in Xcode, then one of the things it is able to do is it can actually spin up previews as part of its process in order to verify if there have been changes and stuff like that. So as long as your previews are focused on the static data, you will be able to see these changes and make sure there aren't any rendering issues as part of your agentic process. Unit tests, everyone loves them. These are what tests your business logic day in, day out. These are what you'll be using. Just like with preview traits, you've got test traits. Test traits allow you to provide common setup at the start of a test, and that way all of that is available to you in the test. So yeah, this is something that is really good if you've got common setup code that you need repeating throughout the tests. Another big one, linting and formatting. So with any sort of like automated process that iterates over your code, that makes large amounts of changes, then you want all of your code to look and feel the same. You don't want it to suddenly start adopting a different style of how you write your tests, of how your code is formatted. You don't want to be switching from 2 indent spaces, which is the one true way, to say the Fibonacci sequence. You don't want anything like that happening. You want it to be consistent. So SwiftLint and SwiftFormat are there as options for you. There are fairly common Swift plugins that you can use, but the common ones aren't build tool plugins. Good thing is you can just ask Claude to convert the Swift plugin to a build tool plugin, and away it goes. It will then run whenever you hit Command B in Xcode, and it will go through its list of checks before it starts to do the build. You've then got all of this configuration files in there for your linting and your formatting that tell you the rules. Another one that's related to this is you can tell Claude and others that you should follow, say, Apple's Swift API guidelines, which is Apple's way of naming conventions and stuff like that. And it will then know, okay, I want you to follow that. I will update the linting and format rules in order to do so, which is pretty nice, pretty convenient, and a great way of making sure that everything is consistent in your code base. UI tests. Everyone hates these, but these are going to play a huge role in your work, mainly because these will be able to test your end-to-end conditions of your app. So from that sort of like, okay, here's your onboarding screens, here's your login flow, here's how you navigate from an app through to a particular run or something like that. UI tests are what you will use to make sure that it's all as it should be. So you need to get it to spit out all of your UI tests. Don't try to get it to spit out macOS ones. I'd love it if macOS UI testing was a lot more reliable under Claude. It's just not. Mainly because it doesn't understand the types of controls in the same way. Like, it's not a one-to-one mapping from macOS across to iOS as far as your accessibility controls. So you end up not getting much benefit there. Another one you want to spend some time thinking through is all of your CI scripts. So it's easy to define a workflow, but you can do more than just, here are the actions you can run. You can do a lot more than, here are your run these unit tests, do these archives and stuff like that. One thing I've set up for all of my apps is being able to spit out release notes. So every time there's a push to the main branch and it does an archive, I have it go and create a release on GitHub that is the details of these changes that have been made. That way I can look back when I'm, say, updating a website and pick out what the major changes that I've seen and have introduced into a particular version and put that up there. This is just a snippet of the bash that I got Claude to generate for me, which, yeah, Claude is really, really good at bash. I am less so, despite my age. I grew up with DOS, I grew up with command lines. I am not good at writing bash. Agents. So we all might have heard about instructions and providing sort of guidance to an LLM. The agents.md is your series of instructions that are used to prompt a LLM about your code base. One of the really nice things you can do is split up this file into a whole heap of different ones and go, okay, if you're doing a basic coding task, take a look here for your design guidelines, or you're doing some UI, here is what you want to be focusing on. You're reviewing some code, here is the guidelines for that. Same with testing and whatnot. You want to be maintaining this all the time, particularly as your team adopts all of these processes. Then they will, they will really want to make sure that it's not stale, because if it's stale, you get the wrong output from your Claude or whatever you're using. Okay, that's a whole heap of stuff there and a very whirlwind tour of what I've been doing. But you do also need to talk about some of the limitations. And a big limitation at the moment is Xcode. And one of the things like I love doing is I'll say to Claude, okay, go ahead and implement this plan for me. But at the same time, I'm like, that's over in this tiny section of Xcode. I've got my code editor there. Why don't I just start typing? Or why don't I just quickly build and run this on my device? Now, Xcode is built around this idea that really it's a single task in that you're doing your code, you're building and you're running. It doesn't deal too well at the moment. We're 18 days out from dub. Everything will change in that time once we hit dub. At the moment, all of this, when your agents are running, are tied to the bit of UI that is selected for your target. So if you've accidentally selected a physical device there, such as an iPhone or an iPad, and the agent tries to run your unit tests or your UI tests, it's going to fail. Now, it's smart enough to recover from it, but it won't be prompting you to actually change the run destination anytime soon. So keep an eye out for that. If you've got it doing an implementation, go look at PRs or something in the meantime. Let it do its thing. You can do whatever you want. Go out for a bike ride, whatever. Debugging problems. So it's really, really good at spitting out lots and lots of code in a format and way that you want, but it doesn't know, okay, you're using this modifier, how does it affect something else? So us as engineers, we still need to be aware of everything that's going on so that when things break, and they do and they will break, you will end up having to solve and debug all of this. So which example did I put here? Oh, the navigation link. Yes, this was several hours of me wanting to throw a laptop out of a hotel window this afternoon. The app I'm building has what's called an adaptive sidebar, which on iPad is, if you've got your iPad in landscape, it's a sidebar. If your iPad's in portrait, it's up the top. That's adaptive. You can use that on macOS as well in order to get a sidebar there. The problem is that on macOS, for some reason, switching tabs was partially, not fully, partially invalidating the view hierarchy, so that when I went back to that original tab, all of the navigation destinations I had applied didn't work. And no matter what I did to actually try and figure out all of this, like where's the view invalidation coming from? Where's the view identity being set? None of that actually solved the problem. What I then sort of thought through, because I've been doing this for many, many years, is okay, if I'm switching tabs, is it restoring back to the point I expect? No. Therefore, start looking at the tab modifiers to figure out what's going on there. And yep, that was a long time, and it's something that Claude and others really, really struggled to understand. Will they ever get there? No idea. I really don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Cognitive overhead. So when using all of these tools, the idea is, how do we make it easier to think about, reason about, and understand as humans everything that is going on in our apps? So everyone sort of, for years it's been, unit tests are your documentation. Documentation is your documentation. And all of that. These days you need multiple things, because the agentic stuff will be looking at multiple things, and you as people will need to be looking at everything in order to understand the scope of the changes and what's going on. When you're writing code by hand, you tend to have a deeper understanding of everything, and you retain that knowledge as you write more and more and more. When you're doing agentic programming, you're removing that. Good thing, bad thing, hard to say. I'll talk about it next. But that's what's happening. So we need to put in place all of these other tools and processes in order to make everything work. And if we reduce our own cognitive overhead and make it easy for ourselves as people, we actually are making it easier for the agentic side, and it all makes a lot more sense. Okay, fun times. Last slide, I promise. Ethics in AI usage. Whether you use AI or not, whether you think it's intelligent or not, whether you think it's the future or anything else, the fact is it's here as a process that people are adopting very, very rapidly. The problem is that we need to think about it like we think about asbestos. Asbestos was introduced to solve a problem. Only after a period of time did we realize how harmful and destructive it is. We need to be doing the same with our usage of AI, mainly around all of the changes to society that are being thrown on us. We need to be addressing as professionals in the industry. We need to be thinking about how can we best make use of what's available in order for us to do our jobs. I don't want there to be knee-jerk reactions. Rather, I think we should have a discussion and decide, okay, for us, if we're indie developers, do we want to be doing this as part of our process? Because our process is our identity, and our identity gets us talking gigs. It gives us a face in the community. It puts our apps out there. If we tie ourselves to AI usage, then we are potentially tying ourselves to something that is destructive to society and saying, this is our identity. That's one example. Another is you're working in a corporation, you're working within a team. You will have people in your team that are older, have been in the industry for a long time, and will be wanting things done a certain way. You will have people that are newer to the industry and will be wanting to do things a different way. You as a team need to be wrestling with how much adoption do you make? How do you set things up as a team to allow all of this to make sense? There is several talks in this. I hope someone other than me gets up and talks about it. It might end up being me, but let's be honest. I have other things I want to talk about. Ethics in AI, we all need to be talking about collectively and figuring out where we sit. I've been very non-committal either way. So hopefully, please take away from tonight's talk. Here is everything you can put in place to make your life easier as a developer, whether you adopt AI or not. And that is the end of the talk. Yes, questions? Anyone apart from Neil? Go for it.
First off, single text. I know we're supposed to be inclusive here, but text. Second, I mean, I think not to, go too much on the AI side, but I feel like even before AI, it's hard to write a unit test or even a UI test that's actually going to catch a bug in production before it gets there. And now with LLMs that seem like they're sort of hell-bent on finding a way to break what you thought your tests were going to catch. I mean, what new advancements sort of have been made on that front? Like even LLMs aside, you know what I mean? But then making sure we're writing the right tests rather than just adding some lines to the code base that will just make our build slow.
Okay. To summarize, because maybe Mike picked it up, maybe it didn't. The question was around all of these things have been existing for a long time, and us typically as engineers have had difficulty maintaining them to a level of standard that they're useful. What has changed now that we've got agentic processes in there, and does that improve things? Does it put more errors in place? What happens now? So my approach is like, these things we need to have been doing for years, without a doubt. If you're not doing them, you're doing yourself a disservice. That's my very strong opinion on that. Now, what all of the modern stuff is introducing is a way to very quickly and very reliably and repeatedly scale out all of these processes. So you can scale out your unit tests, your UI tests, your previews, your application of formatting, of linting, of style guides, everything like that pretty much becomes an automated process where you just go, okay, tool, make sure my code adheres to all of these styles. The advantage there is developers don't have to spend as much time thinking about that as their day-to-day process. They get it done at some cost, whether it's not much, a lot, that's a different question. They get it done at some cost so that they can then think more about, okay, what are the edge cases in this UI? How can we sort of scale out this process, this UI in our product to better serve the customers, the people who are using the app day to day? Hopefully that sort of answers your question. It was a really good question. Yeah.
Great stuff there, Amy. And I try to work to all this, and I guess this sort of leads me to the end of the whole ethics side of things. I guess the thing that I struggle the most with is I try to fight to get a lot of these processes in with the customer, and the customer is always right. So that's right, the money. And so I guess the problem for me is that I worry that we set ourselves up with all these rules as a professional. The big problem for me is that we might become like the typesetters, where all of a sudden we just sort of run out of road because business would like to just get rid of us and write the code themselves. You know, if they could just be a level 4 as per the last presentation and sit back and it writes and it works and the button works, who cares what's behind the scenes?
I personally, thanks for the question. To repeat and sort of paraphrase so I think I understand it a bit more, it's, are we introducing all of this and putting ourselves out of a job? I would say no. The reason I say no is around our understanding of how all of these devices, our expertise as domain experts in what is capable on a platform and what is sort of permissible with technology. That's not something that an AI can reliably do, because the AIs are probability machines. They'll go, given this series of things, what's the most likely to come next? And if we're building something new, then there's not much of an idea of what comes next. So our expertise, our worth in the monetary sense is more, okay, are we providing that domain knowledge and expertise back to the business? As far as letting product owners, designers, business people, and use that term more in the sense of people whose knowledge and expertise is on managing a business rather than engineering and problem solving. How do we enable them to actually do what they want, which might be making their own changes and their own features? I don't think we can avoid that scenario. What I hope I've presented today is how can we provide the business in the loose sense with all of this certainty and all of this tooling so that when they make a change, they can understand what has changed, how it has changed, and why it has changed. So hopefully that answers the question. I definitely don't see us being put out of jobs as much as the people at Meta, the people at Microsoft, the people at Atlassian, people at Oracle, all want to make adjustments, rightly or wrongly, to their workforce. I think that's painted them very badly as professionals and as companies. And honestly, it is treating people like cattle and a very despicable way to do business. Yeah.
Might be naive because I haven't used the Xcode AI integration much, but you had an agents.md file, but it's in Claude.
Yes. So if you've used Claude for a while, you've probably thought of it in the terms of a Claude.md file, which was Claude's naming for it for a while. The industry then went, no, this is used everywhere, let's just call it agents.md. So when your agentic tooling looks at your project, it will specifically look for an agents.md file at the top level and read instructions from it.
Okay, I didn't know Claude did that.
Yep.
You can always cheat and have a Claude.md that just says, go read it.
That's exactly what I do. I
Yeah.
didn't know Claude wasn't necessary. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry, just have one more question. The Xcode Cloud,
Yeah.
they have an API? Is it like a web API or
So
local?
their API is part of the App Store Connect API.
Gotcha.
I think that was a disservice to the BuddyBuild team to make the change in that direction there, particularly given the expertise that that team had on web and backend to actually produce a consumable API. That's a completely different route, and I'll happily have that with Apple engineers. If I ever get back across to Cupertino, I will be talking to them. But yeah, that's the API you need to use for better or for worse, and it is cumbersome. Okay, Neil.
One was just thought was a funny observation is that one of your markup, markdown, YAML, something, and I mentioned, I think this CocoaHeads going, okay.
Yeah.
Bit surprised. But I was curious, in the previews, one of the things I found recently, which was a surprise, was that in those traits in previews, it gives you the render from the values that are set. So if you want to do something like check what happens to a trait transition, it doesn't. When you do something in the preview and you change it, have you found a way around that, or have I just misinterpreted it? Like, so if you want to see what it does when it transitions light to dark, it doesn't. It completely wipes it and creates a new render. So you don't really find out how your code behaves on the transition. You see the net result in
Yep.
light or the net result. Have you got around that?
My understanding of previews is that they are for a static result of a view. So looking at transitions or trying to programmatically create a transition, I would argue is a not standard approach to the use of SwiftUI previews.
Sure. We were looking at doing legacy code that was UI kit, and we were trying to see what did or didn't work.
Yep.
I went, oh, hang on, and it didn't show it at all. So it switched to simulator and used the keyboard shortcut. I just
Yep.
wondered if there was a way around. I was wondering if I misinterpreted it, or that's sort of a constraint of how they assumed it would work because it's declarative. Okay,
Not so much declarative as it is, think of it like a screenshot.
Yeah.
That's what you're pretty much creating. There's just a lot of heavy duty weight behind it because it's a simulator.
Thanks again, Amy. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Mm-hmm.